Lake Erie, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. The Buzzed Bars are meeting up again, and this time it's at America's Roller Coast. We'll take a look back at this awesome event, which gave a chance to enjoy one of the best coaster collections in the country, as well as a special coaster-themed party, and what might have been one of the best experiences for the club so far. According to the events team, Cedar Point had reached out to the Buzz Bars about hosting an event there, and this kicked off planning for what would become Top Thrill Stumble. While the event was named in honor of the massive renovation of Top Thrill Dragster into Top Thrill 2, in a bit of an unfortunate turn, the redone launch coaster would close only after about a week of operation, and wouldn't reopen in time for our gathering. But if you've spent any time at a Buzz Bars event, you already know that it's the people that make them worthwhile. And these events often have experiences that aren't common among other Coaster Club gatherings, and Top Thrill Stumble would be no different. The location for this one also happens to be one of the most popular roller coaster destinations in the world. But this was far from my first time visiting America's Roller Coast. It was my first ever ride on Raptor in 1996 that turned me into a roller coaster fanatic. And this fandom would lead to a series of various life choices, including a decision to work for the park in the summers of 2004 and 2005, and the many travels I've enjoyed over the years, trying to visit as many different theme parks as possible. The significance of this ride is such that I made it a part of me in 2010, when I got part of the logo tattooed on my lower left ankle. I firmly believe that had it not been for that visit to Cedar Point in 1996, I may not have developed the love of theme parks and roller coasters I have, and I probably wouldn't have traveled to some of the more fascinating locations that I've been to. Plus, I might not have met the lovely folks I feel fortunate enough to count amongst my friends. And now I'd get to join many of them in a park I'd spent many days in over the years since that fateful ride. I knew ahead of time that my planned afternoon departure would be tight, so rather than parking my car at home and going for the usual bus and light rail combo, I found a deal for parking at the airport DoubleTree, as they usually have better pricing on the website cheapairportparking.com, and their close location at the airport means the shuttle doesn't take very long, although it might not have been enough on a day like today. This will definitely be one of the closest calls because it is now about 2 o'clock. The flight departs at 3:15. Fortunately, there's a backup option, as I could walk right over to International Boulevard, hop on the next A-Line Rapid Ride for 2 stops, take the bridge that crosses over to the airport light rail station, and continue right into the terminal. And I feel like doing that probably saved me at least 5 minutes, so far so good. The only hurdle left for me was getting through security, and seeing the estimated wait time for the pre-check line. I have to admit, that's making me feel a lot better. Unfortunately, TSA ended up having other plans. Yeah, I should have kept my mouth shut because got randomly selected for the electronic screening, so it's definitely making it a little tighter. But I'm through. I think I'm good because it's in gate A2, which is very close by. And that close gate meant I had time for a quick restroom stop and my customary pre-flight photos. This happened to be the same flight I took a few weeks earlier on the way to Europe, as I'd be driving to Sandusky from Detroit upon arrival. And not only was my place on the standby list far less dramatic than last time, but there was also some extra open seats, including the middle seat next to me, making it a more comfortable flight. Taking off to the north, we veered right around Mercer Island to make our way toward the Cascades. And the clear weather gave another opportunity to admire Mount Rainier from the skies. And as we continued over central Washington, it was a good time for a movie. A few hours later, as the sun was setting, we made our approach into Detroit. Made it to Detroit, and now it's time to go pick up a rental car and drive a couple hours over to Ohio. Little did I know the hassle that was ahead, because Hertz had quite the line with only one agent at the time. While they made a big deal about checking in online and going directly to your car, I tried to do so, and the site still directed me to make my way to the desk, so I ended up just staying in line. Then on the way out, there was yet another long line to exit, almost as if it was a brand new location of Chick-fil-A. If there was a bright side though, driving so late at night meant there was hardly any traffic all the way to Cedar Point. We had a number of cabins in the back of the peninsula, which would be a great convenience during our stay, but pulling up to them at 2:30 in the morning definitely had me ready for some sleep. After a really short night, everyone gathered outside of the cabins for the morning check-in and catching up with friends not seen since the last event. Since many of us were staying on site, we could take the short stroll across the Cedar Point Shores parking lot for early entry through the Magnum Gate. We took advantage of it for the sake of heading to their newest addition from Zamperla. That was actually operating since Top Thrill 2 was down, and that coaster was Wild Mouse. Named as a tribute to the former Wild Mouse coaster, which operated back in the early 60s, this ride offers a unique layout and provides a healthy bit of spinning, which felt more pronounced from the swerving turns in the latter half. I'd love to see more parks add this version of a spinning Wild Mouse in the future. After getting my lone new coaster for the weekend, a larger group of buzz bars made their way to Millennium Force, which I unfortunately fell victim to an extremely small seatbelt, but managed to get one of my favorite shots of the ride as it flies out of the tunnel and into the speed hill near the end. Look carefully, and you might see some buzzed bars on board. From there, we went to Frontier Town for some rides on Maverick and Steel Vengeance. Unfortunately, they both fell victim to what felt like a bit of a recurring theme for the weekend, which was downtime due to technical difficulties. This gave several of us a chance to grab some lunch from the farmhouse, which was one of the big changes since my most recent visit in 2018. I appreciated that the chicken tenders weren't just your run-of-the-mill grocery store style mass-produced tenders that many amusement parks offer, as they were actually pretty good. And some of the areas of the park have been spruced up quite a bit since my previous visits, so I'm glad to see the park is making improvements in these areas. After lunch, we took a lap on Steel Vengeance, and all I'll say is,
still incredible. Still incredible.
The scale of the ride and that outer bank turn that seems to defy the laws of physics still baffled me, and the two rides I had for the weekend were filled with a lot of airtime, although it didn't seem to be quite as aggressive as I remember it being, but I kind of appreciated that as some of the more recent RMCs I've ridden felt a bit too aggressive. Steel Vengeance had a Goldilocks level of intensity, as it was just right. Our crew had planned a Magnum takeover, but the technical difficulties bug hit once again, so several of us decided to take a break from the heat at the Surf Lounge in the Hotel Breakers for a drink and some air conditioning. I had the Great Lakes Brewing Company lager, which had a taste I wasn't expecting for such a beer. I couldn't tell if it was just a unique flavor, or if the staff had accidentally tapped the wrong keg, but either way, it was still good. At that point, I crashed into the wall of tired thanks to that lack of sleep from the night before, so I went back to the cabin to take a nap, and ended up becoming a source of entertainment for those who were hanging out in the cabin, which I was a-okay with because that bag of ice felt great. After a quick nap and cooling session, I took a walk along the beach for some additional video footage, as I had some ideas for a potential music video for the club. Once I got the shots I wanted, it was time to head over to the marina for one of the Stumble's signature experiences, which continues the trend of many Stumbles having experiences that stand out from the others, like the brewery bus for Stumble on My Mind, the cliff walk during El Stumble 2, or the Decades Cabin Party at Stumble in the Hole. This event had two such experiences, and the first would be this evening's
Stumblina wine mixer, baby. Let's go.
Also known as
the motherfucking Booze Cruise.
Our club had an exclusive sunset cruise on Lake Erie, and many of the members dressed up for the occasion, some of which had a bit of a boating theme. There was also a good amount of food between the local Cameo Pizza and a ton of Metal Mike spaghetti, using a family recipe which garnered much praise at Wobble Me Timbers the previous summer. What I personally found incredible about this cruise, though, was that we had more people on it than there were total attendees of some previous Stumbles and Wobbles. Once the boat was prepared for us, it was time to board and kick off the Stumblina wine mixer. It didn't take long for folks to hit the onboard bar, or to hop in line for pizza and spaghetti, which I'll be among those to say that it certainly lived up to the reputation that the guys on the Drunk Riders podcast had been giving it. Metal Mike can bring his spaghetti anytime. The early part of the cruise was largely focused on enjoying the food and general socializing as one would expect in such a venue. But as our captain navigated us further from the marina, we got to enjoy the views of the massive amusement park from the lake that surrounds it. Many pictures were taken, and some just simply took it all in. As the drinks continued to flow from the bar, the signature shenanigans of the buzz bars kicked up another notch between group karaoke sessions and dancing the night away. There was even a group hot to go dance on the front of the boat, led by Meg. As the sun was setting, our cruise came to an end, but the night wasn't over just yet, as there were more rides to be had with folks splitting off to various parts of the park, before coming together for one last ride, taking over Steel Vengeance. An excellent way to cap off the first full day of the Stumble. Day 2 began much in the same way as the first, with folks heading into the Magnum Gate for early entry, and right over to Millennium Force for the first ride of the day. Once the park was officially open, the majority of the club got together for a Buzz Bars takeover of Magnum, which was one of the best indicators of how large this event was, as there came a point where we had folks still getting into the queue, as others were already walking up into the station. As someone who's been very familiar with this ride over the years, I love how it still offers some solid airtime, even if it might be a bit on the rougher side with what feels like worn out shopping cart wheels. But those final Dorito airtime hills add an extra kick to the end. From there, I split off with Aaron and Hunter as they worked on gathering some of their missing credits, which included a very rough ride on Corkscrew, as it's still one of the more painful aero looping coasters around. Then we took a lap on the converted B&M floorless coaster Rougarou, a ride I knew quite well in its previous form as a stand-up coaster called Mantis, because it was the first ride I worked on back in 2004. It's interesting to ride this after having experienced it as a stand-up coaster, but the bummer is that it still has the occasional headbanging from the transitions in the second half, although I still generally enjoy the layout of this ride. I will say though, the queue is a prime example of an area for continued improvement at the park, as there are portions of it where there's long stretches without any shade, and with the advent of Fastlane continuing to slow it down further, it'd be great if they added more shade for those hot and humid days. But they did at least have some misters, although this one was more like a full-on sprinkler. A wave swinger takeover for another group karaoke session was planned. However, that karaoke seemed to be replaced by a greeting.
At least they know who I am.
Gary.
Several of the folks who came over for the takeover would venture off to other Frontier Town rides, including Skyhawk and Cedar Creek Mine Ride. And as the day reached its hottest temperatures, several of us took refuge once again in the hotel breakers, which I apparently needed more than I thought. Before long, we made our way to the group picnic at the Lakeside Pavilion, with pulled pork barbecue, chicken tenders, and as customary for all Buzzed Bars events, mac and cheese. This picnic was a little bit more on the subdued side, But the shenanigans would kick up a bit later, with the other highlight experience of the weekend, the cabin crawl. Each of the Buzz Bar cabins were assigned a different roller coaster, and those staying in the cabin will work together to figure out food, beverage, and costume ideas that fit the theme of their respective coasters. For us in cabin 181, we had Steel Vengeance, and we made our cabin into a saloon covered in wanted posters for various members of the club. When it came to the drinks to be served, we kept it simple by dealing out shots, as one of our cabin mates, Javi, is notorious for passing them out at Buzz Bar events, just as he did this time.
Javi. Hi.
Some folks would take a spin of the roulette wheel and let it decide which shot they received.
Too late.
When folks chose which shot to take, a number of them chose Malort, which was offered in honor of our pal Tim, who couldn't be on hand for this event. And I took the liberty of recording some first-time Malort reactions to share with him.
Woo! Cheers! That's interesting.
Oh my God.
Great aftertaste. Drum roll.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Talk about a scratchy voice. Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I see that.
Why the f does that exist?
Oh my God! It is cleaner. Woo!
Okay.
Holy.
Oh my God. It's quite okay.
Other cabins had some great costume and food options, including Top Thrill 2's sausage replica of the ride, Magnum's Dorito walking tacos, and Valraven's Viking costumes. As the skies turned dark, some folks would continue hanging out at the cabins, and others made their way back into the park for some night rides. While taking Sunday easy would have been completely understandable given all the festivities and walking around the park over the past 2 days, some members wanted to get in at least a little bit more park time before it was time to head home. Taking a stroll toward the back had me thinking about those summers past when I worked at the park and was able to just kind of stroll around before guests were welcomed in. A nice little trip down memory lane before enjoying a couple first rides of the day on Maverick. I often find myself forgetting how great this ride is, and between the previous night's ride and the quick pair we had this morning, it shouldn't be as easy to forget for a while. But that's the nice thing about getting to ride so many different coasters, because you come back to great ones like this after a while, and it's almost like experiencing it for the first time again. I spent the rest of the morning and early afternoon tagging along with Jillian and JP for a few rides, including the Lake Erie Eagles, Cedar Downs, and a nostalgia lap on the coaster that made me the huge coaster fan I am, Raptor. It's still a very forceful ride, especially in the final double helix where you can really feel the positive G's that can cause the foot tingles until you hit the brakes. There have certainly been coasters I've ridden that are better than this one, but it will always have a special place in my heart as a sentimental favorite, and I hope it's around for a while longer. As the other two went back for a break and to get some work done, I spent my last bit of time in the park with a group of Buzz Bars who hosted a small Cedar Downs takeover, leading to a fun ride with Javi. Folks in the group started heading in different directions as some wanted to grab food, others souvenirs, and some who had an additional night in the cabins wanted a bit of a break. Seeing the looming weather that was on its way, I took that as a sign that it was time to head back to Detroit, especially since my rental car was due back that night, and I had an early flight the next morning. Leaving a Buzz Bars event is never easy because of the quality people you get to spend time with, although it was especially difficult this time because of the horrific traffic caused by the mass exodus of the water park due to the storm. So I ended up waiting a while. I did enjoy one last trip back down memory lane though, as I grabbed dinner at a favorite place to spend an occasional evening during my 2 summers as a ride host, Chet and Matt's Pizza. This local joint truly celebrates their local sports, especially at the high school level, as they have the old Sandusky High School football scoreboard on display, and a ton of memorabilia on the walls inside. Their pizza might not be among the upper echelons of those I've enjoyed in my travels, but they do offer some solid pies, and I appreciated having one last bit of nostalgia before my evening drive to Detroit, which was more scenic as I decided to go the more leisurely route of State Highway 2 instead of the turnpike over to Toledo. After rolling back into Detroit, all that was left to do was drop off my rental car and catch a ride to the hotel for a few hours of sleep before the early departure.
Not the best night's sleep last night. It was a little short, but having the peace of mind that'll make this flight this morning, I'll take it.
Short nights are never the most desirable, but with over 50 open seats on the first flight of the day to Seattle, I was happy to grab that early shuttle over for the comfort of knowing I'd make the flight. And I certainly appreciated knowing so soon that my spot was already secured.
You know how nice and chilled this flight is? It's 45 minutes before, and I already got assigned a seat, so I'm going home today.
This flight would be made even better though, as I ended up with a whole row to myself, meaning a much more comfortable flight with a better chance at some extra sleep. As we approached Seattle, we had a pretty good view on the left side, as we could see Mount Adams, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Rainier when crossing over the Cascades, and the clouds looked as if we were heading right toward a fluffy white lake on our approach. Arriving back to Seattle so early gave me the chance to head home and get right to work on this idea that I had for a special club music video. Having spent a lot of time at Cedar Point over the years, I loved being able to enjoy a more leisurely visit with everyone who came out for Top Thrill Stumble, especially as it meant joining many great friends in an amusement park of great personal significance. And I'm incredibly appreciative of the Buzz Bars event team for putting together such a great event that tied it all together. This will certainly go down as one of my favorite visits to America's roller coast, and I wish to extend a huge thank you to everyone who had a hand in making it happen. The cabin crawl and boat cruise will forever be remembered as some of the best activities to be included in a Buzz Bars event, and I believe that many members will agree that these type of experiences are part of what sets Buzz Bars apart from the others. Along with the music video that I was inspired to create, Allison also created one of her signature event music videos, and they both can be seen on the club's YouTube channel or by clicking the links in the description of this vlog. As this event came to its end, it wouldn't be long until the next one, as there would be even more coasters to ride in Ohio and beyond, all for the sake of celebrating a special episode of a podcast that led to this club's creation. And we'll take a look back at that adventure here on Coasting with Culture. Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on various social media channels at CoastWCulture for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.